This is the opening scene from a movie that I helped animate back in 2007. Until recently, it's been almost impossible to actually watch the finished movie anywhere. So I want to tell you the story of how animating on this little independent movie became the foundation of my entire career. And then I'll tell you where you can watch it. I was one of only 3 animators on this film. Me, Nathan Smith, and Derek DeVilliers. Animating can be exhausting, but let me back up. This is me in the past, 2003. For you math wizards, that's, carry the 1, divide by the hypotenuse, 20 years ago. Here in the future, in 2023, I have been an animator on several feature films, but back in 2003, I was trying to find my direction in life. I had recently gotten into a good film school, BYU, and I even managed to get a job at a video production company making DVDs and doing video editing.
Hey, see the little dial on the very back?
No, I don't. My eye's in it. Yes, I see the dial.
Flip it to F6.
I was aspiring to be a filmmaker. And at one point, my interest was focused more on live action and documentary, and I remember a time when I was home from college visiting my parents. There was a moment when my dad felt inspired to tell me to keep myself open to unexpected opportunities. I took it like, you might think you know what you want, but be watchful for doors opening up along your path. I don't remember exactly at what point he gave me that advice, but for the sake of telling this story, it works really well right here. One day at work, a producer came in and asked me if I wanted to go with him to visit a small stop-motion studio who was animating a short film for him. I said, yeah, I had no idea this little studio existed, but I'd been dreaming of making my own stop-motion films forever. I walked in, saw everything they were doing, the sets, the miniatures, the puppets, and it was like, this is my world. I wanted to be a part of it. I met the 2 guys who started it, Nate and Chris Smith. They were in the middle of animating a short film based on the story of Jonah and the whale. I wanted to help out in any way that I could. So on their next project, I started shooting behind the scenes footage, helping paint out seams on puppet faces, did lip syncing, whatever I could do. This was a door opening. But I was not an animator yet. The extent of my animation experience was flipbooks and stop motion I made as a kid. I loved being involved, but I was in school working on other filmmaking projects at the same time, and I didn't know exactly where I wanted to go with my career. Then, at the end of 2005, Nate unexpectedly opened another door for me. They were planning their next film and asked me if I wanted to learn to animate and be an animator on the movie. Keep in mind, other than the animation I did when I was younger, I had no experience animating real stop-motion puppets. 0. But it was like, here you go, kid, the door's wide open for you if you want to do this. I was beyond excited, so I studied animation books and practiced until I eventually got to do my first shot in the actual movie. It was rough, but I kept getting better and better with every new shot that I did. It wasn't easy. Sometimes the hours were a strain, and there's a stress that comes from being a part of a very small crew, and for someone like me who struggles with perfectionism and maybe a bit of ADHD, that wasn't the easiest thing. But by the end of the film, I was getting a lot better. I had learned a ton and gotten pretty good. And then came the next movie, Spooky Bats and Scaredy Cats. I almost didn't want to animate on it, but again, I walked through the door of opportunity.
I'm reading this right. Looks like we're headed for Spooky Hollow.
What? Spooky Hollow? Are you crazy? That's where the haunted castle is.
And it was still difficult at times, but my wife was supportive, and my animation was leveling up. And by the end of this movie, I had built up a pretty good demo reel of my work, and the best animation in my reel was from Spooky Bats. We did a couple other shorter projects. Eventually, though, I started feeling the sense that there was something else out there for me outside of that studio, so I had to follow my gut and leave. But stop motion always called to me, and for a long time I had dreamed of working at a studio like Laika. They made the movie Coraline. I had doubts about my skills being at that level, but I applied, sent my demo reel, and tried to get my foot in the door, but the door wasn't opening. But I continued knocking anyway. I did freelance videography and got a job as an editor, until one day, out of the blue, Laika's new animation supervisor emailed me. He was looking for animators for a new movie and had seen my demo reel online. Eventually, he asked me to join their team. So, my 7-month pregnant wife and I and our 2-year-old son packed up and moved from Utah to Portland, and I got to animate on Laika's next 4 movies. And over working on those movies, I continued to grow, and my animation was able to reach a level that I had doubted I was even capable of. And then more recently, I had the chance to do some animation on the new sequel to Chicken Run. And of course, some of what I've been able to do on YouTube and with my Flipbook kit has been because of my experience on those movies. So when I look back at myself in 2003, following my path as best I knew how, but not knowing definitely where I was going, aspiring to be a filmmaker, but watching for opportunities and open doors. Nate Smith opened one of the first of those doors for me, and I would not have gotten in at Leica when I did without my demo reel from having worked on Spooky Bats, Scaredy Cats, and The Light Before Christmas. So for me personally, those two films mean a lot because they are a foundational part of my career and represent quite a few open doors. I will say one thing about opportunities that come your way. Make sure you only walk through the doors that align enough with your personal values. I have said no to working on animation projects even when I was unemployed and hurting for money because I didn't want to work on films that I wasn't comfortable having my kids see, and I'm perfectly comfortable closing those doors. So why did it take 16 years for this film to become available to stream, other than streaming wasn't a thing when it was made? Well, The Light Before Christmas plays every year in IMAX theaters, and Spooky Bats had a premiere on the Cartoon Network, but distribution is no small task. And if it doesn't work out, your finished film can end up on a shelf or disappear in a vast ocean of movies. And that's kind of what happened to this one. So, I'm glad that Nate has found a way to make these movies finally available to stream online, and that he's found an independent, direct way to do it. He and his partners have built their own site where you can stream the movies directly, and because they're doing it themselves, they can keep their prices lower. It's like less than $2 to rent and $5 to buy. And when you do it that way, you know you're supporting the artist directly because all the proceeds go to the artist instead of having a big revenue split with a streaming platform. So if you're looking for a kid-friendly animated film to watch this Halloween or Christmas, or if you're just curious to see the first two film projects that I got to help animate, then go to cinemationtv.com and you can stream both of them there. Thank you to Nate for opening some doors of opportunity for me, to Brad Schiff at Leica, and to everyone else along my career path who has done the same. Oh, and if you use the promo code Andy when you stream the movies, you can save 20%. Stay creative, and I'll see you guys in the next one.